sort of gifted ability. But I asked the question of what would happen if we had a student that had both a learning need and a special ability. How would we work with them to make sure that they were also successful? So in the fall of 2011, I sought out to answer this question with Dr. Mason, who was my supervisor throughout this and through this presentation. And the title of it was Savants and Autism, Is There a Relationship and What Does It Mean for the Music Educator? The result of this study was an annotated bibliography of 40 resources that the music educator can use to answer this question. In addition, I also wrote up a small proposal about how one would actually apply these ideas and teaching techniques into a music classroom to work with these students. Today, I will be summarizing my findings, but first, I'd like to introduce you to a few individuals. This is Tony DuBois, and let me start off by saying some of his accomplishments as a musician. He graduated from the Berklee College of Music magna cum laude after having received a scholarship to attend there. He has many musical accomplishments. He has memorized over 8,000 pieces. He can play 22 different instruments and can sing in 11 different languages. He's performed around the world and is still invited to perform at these venues today. Despite this, he does not read or write. He cannot tie his shoes. He needs his family to help him through everyday life. He has retinopathy of prematurity, which is an eye disease that develops in birth, and therefore Tony is blind. So he is starting to read Braille, but like I said, he does not read or write because of this. He is autistic, and he is a musical savant. The book that you see cited there is by his mother, Jan DuBois. She talks a lot about educational policy and making sure that students get the kind of education that they deserve, and she talks a lot about her journey with Tony and what she had to do, the hoops that she had to jump through in order to make sure he was getting an equal education. This is Derek Paravicini. Like Tony, he has performed around the world. He's performed with the Royal Philharmonic Pops Orchestra, and he's even had a piece that was written for him, which he premiered a few years ago. Like Tony, he also has retinopathy of prematurity, and so therefore he is blind. He also plays the piano, as you can see here, and he's autistic. The book that you see cited here by Adam Aquifer is actually by his teacher. So this is a great resource for teachers and what they can do to work with these students. It's more focused on that, whereas Jan's is more on the educational policy side of things. This is Rex Lewis Clack with his mother in this picture. He's also performed around the world. And I wrote music as a vessel for growth. His mother spoke of in her book, she said that one day Rex was having a particularly difficult day. He's very hypersensitive to sounds and to touches. And he was crying profusely. She wasn't sure what to do, so she turned on the radio. And on the radio, Mozart was playing. And she said it was like a light had just gone off, that she sat there just in awe of this music. And she said that this was really the beginning of his musical career and this sort of pathway to just a more successful, fulfilling life for him. He's been integrated into typical academic and music classrooms, although he does have an aide with him. He has septic optic dysplasia, which is another eye condition. He's also blind, also plays the piano. And he's severely autistic. He's further along the spectrum, perhaps, than we saw with Derek and Tony. And at the bottom, this is Kathleen Lewis, his mother's book about him, Rex, a mother, her autistic child, and the music that transformed their lives. So now that we've looked at a few specific case studies, let's try and get some more concrete definitions of what exactly the savant syndrome is. Savant and twice exceptional can be used interchangeably, and I'll be doing that throughout this presentation. Savant is derived from the French verb savoir, meaning to know. And twice exceptional or gifted learning disabled refers to a student that has both a learning need and has a gifted ability. Some more terminology for this. John Langdon Down was the first to actually record having worked with these individuals. He deemed them idiot savants because he found that they had a low IQ level, but that they were excelling either musically or artistically. We'll talk more about the different ways. Obviously today we would not call them that. So the term that coined after was autistic savant. Now that's not even representative in itself because only about half of all savants are autistic. The other half are also have Down syndrome or Williams syndrome or some other kind of impairment. So Daryl Day Treffert, who's probably the leading researcher today on the savant syndrome, calls it just that, the savant syndrome, and that's pretty all-encompassing, and he talked about that in his book, Extraordinary People. He also talks about levels of ability and different talent domains in which these savants can specialize in. He says for levels of abilities that there are three. Splinter skills are characterized, this is in his words, by obsessive preoccupation with, absorption in, and memorization of the various talent domains savants specialize in, which we'll get to in a minute. Talented skills are more highly honed and distinctive than splinter skills and typically occur within a single area of expertise. Prodigious are savants that have skills that would be spectacular even if it were to be seen in a non-impaired person. And you can see that there would be some difficulty with categorizing what actually qualifies someone to be in a certain category. The different talent domains, I'll go over these briefly. Calendar calculating, essentially the ability to make calculations with a calendar. This can be any kind of calendar system, really. Music, which we'll get into more later, but usually has to do with performance, although there have been composers as well. Art, much like music, except the actual act of creating visual art. Mathematical number skills, a lot like calendar calculating, but it has to do more with working with prime numbers or square roots. It's more mathematically based. And then mechanical spatial skills, essentially the ability to take things apart and put them back together or to tell time without a clock. So how do we identify and help these students achieve? Create a portfolio of the students' work. Take input from their parents, their teachers, include their work in the classroom and outside of the classroom. Tests of creativity, have them work on tasks using their own creative methods. Ask them to solve a problem using whichever method is comfortable for them and see what they come up with. IQ tests in this case are not very accurate. They've actually done some more research on exactly what IQ tests can tell us in this situation, and Bolton Puska said in 2004, savant talents appeared in subjects at a broad range of IQs as large as between 36 and 128. So quite frankly, it's not a diagnosis. You can't diagnose someone using an IQ test in this case. And how can we help them achieve? Reese and McCoach found in their studies that we should encourage compensation strategies, promote awareness of strengths and weaknesses, focus on developing the child's gift, and provide an environment that values individual differences. Now, when you look at this list, you see that these are really things that we should be doing with all students. This isn't specific to working with savants, but I would argue that it's particularly important that we're really making sure that we're encouraging them to succeed. We're making them aware of their strengths and their weaknesses, especially because we'll talk more about this in a minute, but it's so easy to focus on one rather than the other. And so the ultimate question, what does this mean for the music educator? I'd like to first read this quote for you. It says, autistic individuals, even those that are not savants, are often able to remember strains of pitches and are able to distinguish between pitch differences more accurately than their typically developing peers. And this has been replicated many, many times. It's interesting to see that we perhaps have certain expectations of students and they surpass those expectations. And this is very indicative of that. So the music educator's role, provide equal access to all students in the least restrictive environment possible. Record symptoms that are associated with gifted and learning disabled students. Allow for exploration. All of the students that I introduced you to earlier were allowed to explore their musical tastes, their creativities at home, and were allowed to sort of lead their own learning. Record instrument preference. We really didn't get into this too much in this presentation, but there's been a lot of research done on why savants tend to gravitate towards the piano. As you noticed earlier, all three of them, their primary instrument was the piano. And then parents and guardians, it's always important, no matter what, to stay in contact with them and to make sure that they're able to explore their creative tastes at home as well as in the classroom. So in addition to my studies, I have some of the experts in the field. This included everyone from Treffert to Jan Du Bois, so we have quite the range of people that can speak to these questions. The first of which was, do you think music educators are being prepared adequately to work with savants or students that are twice exceptional? First response I heard back was from Susan Rancer, a registered music therapist. She said, no, when working with savants, music educators are clueless. Ouch. She's been working with savants for over 30 years. Like I said, she's a registered music therapist. She has a lot of experience in the field. And that should be a wake-up call to us as educators that there's obviously more that we can be doing and it's not being addressed enough. Jan Du Bois told me that teachers who are willing to give people with savant syndrome the opportunity are often surprised by the results. How do you think music educators can help foster talents in savants? Jan said that music educators can best foster the talents of savants by following the lead of the savant. That's what she did with Tony. Treffert said that music educators can help foster talents in savants by training the talent. In this case, music, because as the musical skills increase, so do language skills, social skills, and daily living skills. As he points out in his book, he's referring to islands of genius, creating a conduit toward growth. This is our last quote from Jan. It's very powerful in that it reaffirms how important it is to listen to our students, and she is all about that in her book. She said that Tony led me in the direction that he wanted to go. Tony knocked on the doors. I just unlocked them to make sure he could enter in. At the beginning, I said that as music educators, we are often faced with challenging situations that we simply cannot fully prepare for in our undergraduate years. However, I do hope that you have gained insight about the savant syndrome and about current research in the field. I also hope that you leave this presentation with more questions. Challenge yourself by asking these questions and eventually answering them. I'd like to thank Dr. Mason for all of her help, and if you have any questions for me about this or anything else, please feel free to contact me at this address. Thank you for your time.